guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video is an edited replay from the live I did where we colored the Lovely Legs Witch's Cauldron from Colorado Craft Company, and I also used Spookville from their what is it? Whimsical World? That's the line. Anyway, I'll link them below. So there's no dies. This is a good old 1-layer card scene. So we are going to have some masking. So I've stamped down my adorable little witch's cauldron with her legs sticking out. I think this is super cute. I have I've colored a ton of her. The character's name is Eudora, and they have one every Halloween that comes out, and I always color her up. I love these stamps. So I stamped it down kind of to the bottom right, and then I stamped it on some masking paper as well. This is Eclipse masking paper, and then I decided that I wanted to use the little moon as well, so I'm stamping that down on this is on the masking paper. This is not on the actual card, so we'll stamp the moon on the actual card in just a minute. But I love a scene. I can't help it. I love a good scene, and I especially love a good 1-layer scene. So the idea behind this was kind of like to have like this spooky little scene where this witch is clearly getting up to some hijinks, with like a sleepy kind of city in the background behind it. And I think we were able to pull that off. So one thing to know with the die cutting or with the fussy cutting of things, you can either do it one of two ways. So if you want to do a scene card, then you either have to stamp them and mask them, or you have to stamp them and cut them out somehow. Sometimes they have dies, sometimes they don't. If they don't have dies, then you have to fussy cut. The helpful tips that I have for fussy cutting when it comes to masking is the same as if you were going to cut it out of regular cardstock. So there's different things that you can do, and like here, like the bottom of the cauldron has like these little feet. I chose to cut out my little feet, and typically I will cut with my dominant hand, hold those scissors straight, and then turn my paper with my non-dominant hand to get a much smoother cut. Sometimes with those little itty bitty pieces, you have to kind of come in from another angle. And sometimes, honestly, I find it easier to just cut it apart from its main piece, because ultimately the reason I'm cutting the mask is not for it to stay in one piece. I'm cutting the mask for it to cover the whole piece. So if it's easier to cut the little feet off and then trim them out, then that's fine. Then do that. So then this little tree is also from that Spookville, and so I'm going to stamp that down. The other two masks are in place. I choose to do ink blending for a lot of my scene cards. It saves me, I guess, on alcohol ink. Sometimes it makes more sense to just color them. Like when doing all of the masking wouldn't make sense. I have another card that's a scene card that will be coming up here shortly in my next couple of videos. And that one, it just made sense to color it with actual markers instead of doing the ink blending. But for this one, I was already cutting the masks for the stamping anyway, so there was really no reason not to do the ink blending. And you can see, obviously, at this point, we've switched to what was the live versus what is pre-recorded. So you'll see me down in the bottom right-hand corner just coloring away. But obviously the voiceover is after the fact, because this is a lot more, this is sped up so that we could, fit it into that like 30-minute chunk of time instead of, I think it was like 2 hours. I think the live was. So here we have these little tree branches again. This is very tedious to cut these little guys out. So if you find it easier to not cut them out, that's fine. If you have the option to cut the things off because you're going to color them a dark color anyway, then that's great. You don't even have to worry about, masking the little bits. Or, like I said before, you could cut them off and make it a little bit easier. Regardless, like, unfortunately with fussy cutting, sometimes things are just more intricate. If you don't have dies, or they're not in your budget, or you don't, or maybe the stamps don't have dies, not all stamps have dies, then you can definitely invest in a brother scan and cut to trim them out. That's something else. But I typically will do the fussy cutting as long as the sweet Lord gives me the dexterity to do it. When I put my little cauldron down, I ended up getting one of those feet kind of tucked up under it. So I had to pull that back out. So now I have the tree, I have the witch's cauldron, I have the moon in the sky. Now I'm going to do my little sleepy town in the background. So I could have stamped them like all the way across, but I liked there being a little bit of a gap so you could see some of that lighter blue from the sky. So I did 2 houses next to each other on the left-hand side. And then the house that actually hung over on the left-hand side, I then stamped that on the right-hand side, because you don't even see that portion of the house anyway, so they aren't going to look like they are the same exact house. Just another way to kind of stretch your supplies. There, I'm just trying to get the general placement for where my horizon line is. And then these ones I'm not even going to mask, because I'm not adding any detail to them. I'm going to ink blend right over them and then color them in grays so that they look kind of, offset. So you can use washi tape to set your horizon line, or I like this Post-it note tape. This is the 1 inch wide. And then I'm going to do the ink blending for the sky first. So I'm going to put this in place to block off the ground. And then I do like to wrap the edges around the back of my card. I find that I have a much easier time not lifting up the edges. And almost right away, when I start doing this, those little teeny tiny bits start giving me a hard time almost right away, because they're little and they are having a hard time sticking. So one of the things that you can do is don't go against the grain. So I'm going to switch from coming down from the top and pushing against those branches to coming up from the bottom. So that way I'm kind of using the blending brush to kind of push them back down. Alternatively, you can use repositionable adhesive. If you find that one side is coming up, like here with the moon, this bottom side came up, and it's hard for it to re-stick once you have applied ink, because there's moisture in the ink and it's already a low tack masking paper anyway, because we don't want it to stick, right? So if you've watched my channel for a long time, this will not be a surprise to you. I am a huge fan of the Tombow Mono Multi-Glue because it is repositionable. And even though I don't use it all the time like I used to anymore, I still have it on hand right next to my desk so that I can reach for it for when I have a situation like this. So this glue is permanent if you put it down when it's wet, but if you wait until it is dry, it is repositionable. So I put a little bit on my mask, not on the paper. You want to put it on the mask. And then I tapped it with my finger until it was dry and it was just tacky. And then I can push it back down. And then I'm telling you, that's going to hold. I have absolutely no doubt about it. That repositionable adhesive will hold. I used to make my own masking paper that way before I found a masking paper that I really liked. Just those intricate pieces, I mean, it is challenging. It's challenging when we try to stencil intricate pieces or, ink blend over them. It's all a little bit more difficult because they are so fine detailed, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. And like I said, worst case scenario, if it's giving you huge problems, just make the thing darker than the color that you put on there. Just make it a little bit darker. So I always do my ink blending twice, which we've done. We've worked all the way out to our salty ocean. We are going to leave all of our masks in place while we do the things for our sky. So first, I'm going to spatter on just some clean water because Distress ink is a dye ink and it works with water. I can use that to create kind of like some bleached out stars that look a little farther away. And then I will add some water to the little palette of perfect pearls that that I have. Perfect Pearls bind with water, so these aren't going to be going anywhere. It starts as a powder. I scoop it into that little bin, add some water, mix it up, and then I can spatter it on for some really pretty shiny stars. And then I'm going to go ahead and flip the horizon line. So I'm going to remove that mask. All the other masks are going to stay in place. And you can see here how it's kind of giving me a hard time about sticking. That's one of the reasons why making the tape a little bit longer to wrap around the bottom is super helpful, because that sky has a lot of that, wet ink on there. The masking tape doesn't really want to stick. And then here, that foot, because that foot is a more intricate piece, so it was giving me a hard time. And so we're going to bring in the Tombow Mono multi glue again. And these things did not move for the rest of the time that we were making the card. Like, they just didn't move. Something to note, since we are still in the month of October, the coupon that I have for the 10% off the OLO markers is still good. It's 10% off. It's code Kelly, Kelly. I will link that below. And somebody had asked me, I do read your comments, but I don't always have time to respond in the moment. Somebody had asked that they wanted to invest in the OLO markers, but they weren't sure if, like, what they were going to offer for Black Friday. I have no idea what they're going to offer for Black Friday. So the only thing I can tell you is I'm sure there probably will be a sale for Black Friday. I just don't know if it'll be greater than the 10% that they are allowing me to offer right now. So you'll have to make that decision for yourself if you want to run the risk. I am sure that they probably will have a sale. I don't have any insider information. I'm just going based on past dealings with, like, holidays and stuff. But they're also releasing those 96 colors. That 10% does apply to the 96 colors as well, and they have them broken down in different bundles. And I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure what they're going to offer, because they're also doing the new, the new colors. So I don't know. Anyway, so now here we're done with the ink blending. We clearly have some grasses and we have some sky, and now I'm going to remove the masks. Now you could save these masks to use for another time. If you think that you're going to be making multiples of the card. I typically do kind of just like stick mine to the packaging. Sometimes, because I use Distress ink and it does stay damp a little bit longer, they only get maybe 1 or 2 uses out of them. So sometimes it's not worth it to save them. But if they're still in good shape, and like the one for the Witch's Cauldron definitely was, I will save that. So now we're doing the shadows for these houses, and I'm just going to do them in grays, just dark grays, because again, they're just setting the scene. They are... they're not even I guess they are supporting actors for our little scene here. I feel like the tree and the moon qualify as supporting actors. These are literally just extras. I guess is a good way to put it. They're just the people who fill out the crowd back there. So here, where our highlight is going to be different, because the moon is kind of like in the center right. So it's going to shine down and out. So the building on the right-hand side will have the lightest part on the left, and the building on the left-hand side will have the lightest part on the right. And again, I think I used a C9, a C7, and a C5. We're not coloring them for detail. We're just coloring them to be of a different value so that it's setting the scene. And then we're going to color the tree and then our Witch in the Cauldron and the moon brighter colors so that they are, part of the scene, and we're going to add some shadows and things like that. So I did a live earlier today, and I had fully intended to finish doing what I was doing, which was the coffee cups. But Molly, for some reason, was just pacing like a crazy person. And I could not figure out exactly what the issue was. And I was starting to get a little nervous that like something was wrong because she's old. Turns out she just had to go to the bathroom. So if those of you who watched my live earlier, if you were nervous, if you were nervous about Molly pacing around and barking at me and stuff, she's fine. She just had to go potty. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And then Brandon had actually asked me if I could do like an update on my dad, since my mom has passed away. Actually, in two days, it'll be 5 months, and I cannot even believe that. I don't know. It's crazy. Grief is a wild ride. Sometimes you think you're doing okay, and then it will just come up and get you out of nowhere. And then there's some times where you're doing okay, and then you feel bad that you're making it through and surviving because you think, well, I should not be surviving. But my mom isn't here, and I should not be just continuing on my life. But I also know that's exactly what she would want me to do. That's exactly what she would want me to do. So my dad is doing fairly well. Obviously, he has his own grief. They were married for almost 50 years. He misses my mom terribly, and he tells me all the time that he talks to her all the time. He does come visit us pretty frequently for dinner. So I'm one of 3 girls, if you're new here. And so all of us do have him over for dinner. In fact, he's coming over for dinner tonight. We're having meatloaf because I made a ordering mistake. I was trying to order 2 packages of 1 pound of ground beef, and I ended up ordering 2 2-pound packages. Well, so now I have to make meatloaf. Let's talk about the card real quick. So here I did her shoes, kind of like the Louis Vuittons, like how they always have the red soles. I did her shoes with like purple soles because I thought that would be super cute. And then I added the purple to her straps, and we did the buckles with a gold. We're going to bring that gold back in for the layers of the cauldron. Like the little detail. I asked in the live what color they wanted to do the cauldron, and they picked purple. I think it's super fun. So we have like the green bubbles, and then we're going to do orange stripedy stockings, and then the purple cauldron. For the stripedy stockings, this is not the first time you heard me say this. When you're doing something striped, way easier to color in the white layer first. And honestly, like if you were doing a different, like 2 different color stripes, you might be able to get away with it if you colored the lightest color first. But I typically, when I'm doing something striped, I'm using white as my other stripe. So I add my shadows to kind of like the left and the right hand side, and then also where her like knees and thighs are meeting, there'll be shadows. So the lightest part is going to be in like that V on her shins and then her kneecaps. And then, so I picked out some oranges, and I am just going to alternate the stripes so that I just find it easier to just color one of them alternating instead of having to color 2 of them alternating and get the stripes exactly the same. So anyway, my dad he's doing fairly well. We have been trying to continue the Sunday dinners. I think we've only missed maybe like 1 or 2. That's something that we started doing. Well, we used to do it all the time when I was like younger. We would do Sunday dinners, and we would get together at my parents' house on Sunday so everybody could kind of catch up with each other. And then that's also how we celebrated like birthdays, because we were all together every Sunday. So it was just like, if your birthday was on a Wednesday, that following Sunday, we were going to celebrate your birthday when we were all together. Back to the card. So here for the like sun, moon accessories, you could absolutely color these to be like a flat part of the cauldron, but I thought it would be really fun to color them as if it was a added piece, like an added layer, so that they were sticking up. So I am coloring them that kind of yellow gold that I colored her buckles. And then I'm going to add shading underneath them so it looks like they are raised up, and that they are kind of protruding out from the actual cauldron. And then I did the feet gold as well. So we started going back to doing Sunday dinners, so that we could all, get together once a week. And I had actually had intentions of doing them even before my mom had gotten sick, and life just, it gets in the way. So we do that on Sundays. We still go to my parents' house. Just one of us makes dinner. Honestly, usually it's my oldest sister. She's a rock star. And so, we go there. This Sunday we did not. We had some other stuff going on, and then so we called him yesterday. Usually I have my kids call him, because he's less likely to tell my kids no. You know what I'm saying? I do the same thing with my sister. Like, if I want to invite her for dinner and I know that she's going to be like, no, you don't have to feed me, him haw, I'm like, I just have the kids call. And so we called him, but he wasn't home. So he was off actually trying to work out his new phone. And so I think Eric is going to go over and help him kind of get everything set up with his new phone, because he didn't have a smartphone. He only had a flip phone. But honestly, that's like all he wanted. Well, then my mom had switched to a smartphone the last time she got a new phone. And so he's like, okay, I think I want to switch now. So anyway, he was off doing that. So we missed our phone call, and like the stalker child that I am, I of course drove by the house to make sure he wasn't answering the phone because he wasn't home, not because, there was something wrong. Yeah, I can't help it. I am who I am. And I needed to know. So we drove by the house and he wasn't home. And so then, today, I was told, my son, I was like, call Papa and see if he'll be willing to come over for dinner tonight, see if he's home. So he was, and so he's coming over for dinner tonight. And I think that this is probably true for anybody, but when you are just like used to a certain way that something is made, like that's your expectation. So it is very different, because I don't necessarily cook the way that my mom cooked. My mom was like no sauces. She was like a dry food eater. I love sauces. And so like I tend to make, like, my mom never made gravy with meatloaf, but I will make gravy tonight, y'all. So that part is different. I do try to stick to, like, as close as I can to the way that my mom would have made it when it comes to my dad, because I know that's like what his expectation is. And my mother was a phenomenal cook. So I know it's not going to be as good, but we do our best. Like we do our best. We do our best. And then Brandon had also asked about how his trip went. He did go to Vegas for their wedding anniversary. That's a trip they would normally have taken together. And he did take that trip. I think it was okay for the most part. But I do think that it was more difficult than he maybe originally expected, because I have heard him make comments after the fact that if he goes back again, he would probably go for a shorter period of time. But I'm hoping, like, this time he wouldn't let anybody go with him. He wanted to go by himself. And obviously, like, he's my father. We try to respect his wishes. I tried to get him, like, hey, if you don't want one of us to go, take Eric with you. But he would not do that either. Yeah. I think it would be better if the next time he lets one of us go. Okay, so back to the card. We're doing the shadows. So the tree is to the left, the moon is to the right, so its shadow would be down and to the left. The cauldron is kind of more centered, so its shadow isn't really going to be canted. But these, like, it does not have to be perfect. Just like for the tree, just extend it out to from the base back. And then for the cauldron, just make a round shape. Like that's all you have to do. And those shadows can really like bring the whole scene together. I did want there to be some texture, like the grasses part. I didn't do a ton of contrast with the grasses. I just really wanted it to add in the texture of it. And then here's where I was like, okay, my shadow is not dark enough. So I did pick a slightly darker green and then go in there again. I used the mid-tone that I originally started with, around the edges, because shadows aren't necessarily as dark around the edges. Like they can be, but they're not always. Sometimes they're a little bit feathered. So that was the thought process there, was to just make the edges just a teeny bit lighter. But I was happy with the way that they came out. So now I'm going to do the shimmers. I primed this thing like nobody's business. Too much. I know you wouldn't think that there could be too much shimmer. And it's honestly not too much shimmer, but the problem is that it was too wet. And so can you see the blue around my moon starting to like bleed out into the Distress ink? It's because I primed it too much. So now I'm giving it a little bit of time to like kind of dry back, and then I'm going to go in and like go around the edges with a blue, so that I can kind of like blend it in, and then I will fix the actual edges with my white gel pen. I'm also going to use that to add some kind of stars to the sky. And my little highlights to the tops of the shoes along her like shins. I'm going to use it to add some decoration to the cauldron itself. Like it has those little star shapes on there, and I'm going to color those white, add the accents to the part that is golden as well as the feet. I even added it to the tree as well. And then for the cauldron, I also did just some kind of like random kind of white dots to kind of break up that large expanse of color. But I think that she came out really, really cute. I did not get to finish the whole thing in the live. I got almost all of it done. I think the only thing I did after the fact was add the sentiment, which is be crazy. I think that's hysterical. I think that is so funny. I love the sentiment. So I am going to treat this with my anti-static tool, and then I'm going to stamp it down in some white pigment ink. This one is from Honeybee. It's the Brilliant White Pigment ink. I stamped it twice because I feel like that does give me the best coverage. And then I am going to sprinkle on some white detail embossing powder and heat set that until it is smooth. And then from there, I'll add some gemstones to the cauldron, to some of the stars, and then around the sentiment as well. So obviously my dad still has his moments, but he's doing fairly well. He is getting out of the house. He likes to obviously he went to Vegas. So he goes to the casino. He went out and did like a little luncheon at his Union Hall. So he is trying to get out there and do things. And then of course we're always on him. Can't leave him alone. I mean, we could leave him alone, but we won't, because that's what your children do. Even when they're grown, they just track you down and find out where you are. So anywho, all right, well, that is the whole card. I hope that you guys enjoyed the scene card, and that the edited replay is helpful. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I will catch you on the next video.